We've got our very good friends in the studio with us, Andre and Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Your current world record holder, gold medalist, 4 gold medals. You've set the world record for the 400-meter hurdle 6 times, often against your greatest competitor, yourself. You just keep beating yourself.
For backstory, I had posted a picture and it was like the song title was like attention. And then he replied and was like, well, you have my attention. How do I get yours?
Brother.
Oh, wow.
That is smooth.
That's impressive.
Like, as soon as she came off the track, before I could kiss her or anything, she was like, I didn't even run that race. I felt God carry me around the track, like with full conviction in her eyes. She was literally just like, I don't know what just happened. I broke the world record on it. I didn't even run that race. Like, God did that for me.
You get one chance when that gun goes off. It's not like football where you get a next play. We talk about this all the time. This is one opportunity that comes once every 4 years. Very few people will ever understand the weight of the night before an Olympic final. Understanding that the whole world is going to be watching this one moment. A lot of people are actually praying that you lose. And ultimately, nobody else can help you once you step on that line except the Lord.
What's going on, guys? Ginger and Jeremy here, and we're back for another episode of the podcast. And we're excited about this one.
Yes, this is going to be a really good one.
We've got our very good friends in the studio with us, Andre and Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah,
Glad you're
thanks
here.
for being here. We are so stoked to have you guys. And I think that Jeremy's going to give the intro more about what you guys do and who you are. But just having had interactions with you guys and become friends, it is so sweet to see how you guys have accomplished so much in your life, but ultimately your main goal is to glorify God in everything that you do. And that's what stands out.
Yeah, you guys really are an example of a godly couple, doing life with the right priorities. So thanks for setting such a good example.
Those are kind words. We appreciate them.
Yeah.
And you've got a really unique story, and we want to get into it.
Okay.
Obviously, Sydney, a lot of people are going to know you for your accomplishments on the track. Your current world record holder, gold medalist, 4 gold medals. You've set the world record for the 400-meter hurdle 6 times, often against your greatest competitor, yourself. You just keep beating yourself. So your sights are set on breaking that again. And so we'll get into all that. But let's start. We're interested on how you guys got connected, on your relationship story. How are you guys here today? You've been married for what, 3 years?
Almost
Coming
3
up
years.
on 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I mean, we still got our training wheels.
Crazy.
But
That's amazing.
we're progressing. We met, honestly, through social media. I mean, it's funny. It's such the 21st century story, but we met social media. I tell her all the time, I wish I could have met you in the Christian section of Barnes & Noble, but it didn't happen.
She hadn't written her book yet.
No,
That's right.
that's exactly right.
That's why.
It took you to write the book.
Absolutely. Shameless. But no, so I slid in her DMs.
He did.
That's
Successful.
the proper vernacular.
Wow.
Yeah.
Successful slide.
Wow.
Thank you.
An honorable slide.
Impressive.
An honorable slide.
Yeah.
I like it.
There you go. Yeah, and I just said, you got my attention. How do I get yours?
Yeah.
Something of that degree.
Yeah.
And honestly, this was during COVID. And at that time period, we all just had a lot of free time on our hands.
Wait, you said, you've got my attention. How can I get yours?
That's what I said.
Was
So
that
for-
your opening line?
For backstory, I had posted a picture and it was like the song title was like attention. And then he replied and was like, well, you have my attention. How do I get yours?
Brother.
Oh, wow.
That is smooth.
Thank
That's impressive.
you. Thank you.
I like it.
I appreciate that.
And
guys.
I just got to ask,
To the
sorry,
point.
I don't want to cut you off, but
Yeah.
was your like social media manager looking through these and going, hey, Sid, check this one out? Or
No,
were you
it was me.
looking through?
Yeah,
Okay.
It was me. And I was like, oh,
Direct shot.
interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I mean, she was intrigued, I guess, at that point.
I was.
And we had some banter back and forth. We texted for like a couple days and then we just started FaceTiming. And honestly, I mean, I was a pretty straight shooter. And I was just at a point in my life where I was like, I'm ready to be married, but whoever I marry, I want to befriend them first.
Yeah.
I want to see how they exemplify godliness as a woman. If the scriptures really bear weight in their life as an authority. And we spent time in Bible study virtually. And I think after about 3 weeks, I told her I had a business trip, and I did meet a man out here for business, if one could say. So I didn't lie, but it was a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Because I really did come out here to see you. So I came out here, we had a good time, spent like 4 days together. I went back. And then 9 months proceeded from there. And we just continued to grow with one another. We had hills and valleys, but God was just uniting us, knitting our hearts together all throughout the journey. And I proposed to her.
Yeah.
And then the next year we got married.
Wow.
Yeah. Now 3
That's
years in May.
amazing.
Yep.
Wow. So exciting. I love hearing just all of these unique love stories and how God brings people together. And it's never really in a way that you would imagine or dream
100%.
of. So you have an idea, an expectation of what that's going to look like. And
Yeah.
especially for both of you having been in the public eye, was that like a fear of how are we going to find someone who you can trust, who's not there for any other motive? Was that ever something in either one of your minds? Because you were both in a public space.
For sure.
And so was that like a challenge for you when you got that DM?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I think at the time that we met, I hadn't had some of the success that I've recently had on the track. So I was at a point, honestly, it was COVID, the world was shut down. And I was honest, that was when I was starting my, walk with the Lord. And so it was at a time where I was really just looking for community, not so much a boyfriend, but just like, I want to know Jesus first, you know what I mean? And I think part of God's divine plan was bringing Andre into my life, first and foremost as a friend, but someone who also wanted me to know Christ, in a deep way. And so our friendship was built upon Bible studies and he invited me to a Bible study. We would do it ourselves and together. And it wasn't so much a fear of, maybe like his intentions because they were so clear. You know what I mean? And so from the jump, I was like, even if we just end up being friends, he's someone I want to be friends with because his intention is to pull people closer to Christ.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
That's something I want to capture about your story too, Dre, because obviously, Sydney, you're at the top of your game now, but you're both top elite level athletes.
Yeah.
You were balling out at University of Virginia as a wide receiver, playing football. You signed with the Ravens. You have a career in the NFL. You leave that and want to hear about your thinking through that, but now you're pursuing ministry.
Yeah.
And so to hear Sydney say she's just starting out in her relationship with Jesus, along comes Andre, but you weren't really a distraction for her from that. You like came along and were helping her in that journey.
I tried. I'm grateful to hear that she has a report that it sounds like it succeeded.
I think we can say that.
But no, I think organic friendship, just time in the Word in general, was such a catalyst for both of us growing in unity. A real friendship that has a central tether and an eternal tether at that, obviously, in the Word of God, that we could both come to and say, we agree, not because Andre said it or Sydney said it or we use the analogy a lot of times of like, if we get into a disagreement, it's not about me trying to pull her into my spotlight or her spotlight, but our humility can reign supreme because I'm like, look, Jesus' spotlight is so much better than either of ours. And it's not like you're relinquishing any kind of control when you both just submit to say, nah, he's better. His way's better. So I think I had definitely times in the past where I allowed my pride to get in the way of friendships, relationships, whatever. But God was kind at that point in my life to allow me to start to realize that in the way that I pursued her.
That's amazing.
So what's your journey? Like, what's your spiritual journey? Give us a little bit of like the Andre Levrone story and your journey into football. When did you meet Christ?
My spiritual journey. I definitely wasn't a shaman or sage. But I think for me, I grew up in the church, Baptist church back in Maryland. My mom was very involved in our youth ministry. My dad was on the security team. We frequently would, almost every Sunday we're at church.
And for good reason, by the way. His father is a unit.
Oh my word.
He's a unit.
When I see Andre, I'm like intimidated. When I see your dad, I'm like, like there's Goliath's
He's the
father.
greater.
Oh,
He's the greater.
It's impressive, actually.
He's senior, I'm junior, 100% in every way. I got baptized when I was 10 years old. Over time from there, I really just started to see a conviction of sin, the Lord sanctifying me. And boy, was that a progressive sanctification because I had some hills and I had some valleys. But all the way through, God was just faithful to see me through. And as I grew older, as I went to the University of Virginia, there were just multiple experiences. Got to meet my team chaplain. There were all types of men along the way, city to city, even as I was playing in the NFL, a lot of pastors who've sown into my life. Bringing it up to speed now, those are the elders that affirmed me after my football career and were very supportive of me attending seminary. And I'm just very grateful for everything that they instilled in me and the trust that they had in me in those years as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's incredible. And then Sydney, so you said that you were on that journey of wanting to even know God better. So did you have a foundation of maybe going to church when you were younger?
Yeah.
And what was your family situation like?
Yeah. So I'm one of 4 kids. My parents raised all of us in the church. That was a huge part of our upbringing, whether it was Sundays, midweek services, teen events, teen camp, all the fun things, I just had that foundation of knowing like, okay, God is here. He has a presence. I didn't understand fully what that meant. I think a lot of it for me and kind of what the book kind of talks about is just living in a constant state of fear and knowing that he is a judge, right? And so a lot of my life was, okay, I just don't want to do the wrong things. I don't want to upset God. But my faith wasn't my own, right? I think it was just, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what is good. These are the right things. And so, I lived a lot of my young life in constant fear of just not wanting to do things wrong. And I think the one place I felt at peace or the most love or acceptance and not so much that fear was track, because that was a place where I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing this good. I'm getting that, that praise. So I think this is a safe place for me. Whereas I probably should have been with the Lord, but I didn't know it at the time. And so I think for me, it wasn't until COVID, just living my life for so long through high school and college, trying to do things my own way, trying to be almost like Lord of my own life. And I was like, well, I think when I'm done living my freedoms, then I'll submit my life to God,
We're going to take a break from this episode to talk about Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth is designed to transform your 5 to 9, the time that matters the most, into the coziest sanctuary.
Yeah, luxury really begins where you rest, and a good night's sleep. Ginge, I'm realizing it more and more the older we get. And we're not old. We're not old.
We're a little old.
Well, okay. Just because somebody thought 30s. I was 51 the other day doesn't mean I'm old. But we recognize sleep is important. And I've realized if I don't get a good night's rest, then it really puts me off. And so all that to say, the Cozy Earth bamboo sheet set, incredible. It makes your bedroom more than a place just to sleep. Honestly, Ginge, I found myself like jumping in bed midday just for 5-10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So cozy.
I napped yesterday, and the one thing that I noticed too the most is that these sheets they're not only buttery soft, but they're temperature regulating. And in pregnancy, I find myself, I would typically I'd run very warm or not be able to get comfortable. And with Cozy Earth sheets, it has made all the difference in the world for my sleep.
Oh, big time. Okay, I'm introducing a new product today, Ginge. This is the Cozy Earth's Luxe Bath Sheets. These things are oversized, ultra absorbent, so soft. They're really incredible. Cozy Earth believes that luxury should not be out of reach. And so you've got a special discount code.
Yes, I do. If you use our exclusive code GINGER, JINGER, for 40% off, you'll get towels, pajamas, and more, best-selling sheets. And if you get a post-purchase survey, let them know that you heard about Cozy Earth right here.
Yeah, so go to cozyearth.com/ginger, JINGER. Sanctuary awaits at Cozy Earth.
Have you been visiting takeout apps more than the gym? No judgment here.
Yeah, we understand what it means to be busy. We're living busy lives. We've got kids. We've got stuff going on. And sometimes you feel like you're living on those delivery apps, getting food brought in.
Yeah.
So every plate is your solution.
It is.
Ginger, you know I love food.
Oh, yes.
And I love food that is not expensive, but it's delicious. It's healthy. Everyplate.com. You've got to check it out because it'll transform how you eat.
Yeah, EveryPlate can help you to dish up better habits with delicious, easy recipes delivered to your door, including calorie smart, carb smart, and protein smart options.
Yeah, you can swap corn tortillas or flour tortillas for lettuce wraps. I mean, it's like having a chef.
It's brilliant.
A personal chef for you. So skip the store. Enjoy the wholesome homemade meals that cost less than groceries.
Start with 50% off of your first box with my code GINGER50. That is JINGER50 at everyplate.com/podcast.
Yeah, every plate offer is valid with auto-renewing subscription. Trust me, you're going to want to auto-renew your subscription. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I think COVID was a time I was living alone. I was by myself. I was honestly just sitting in my sin and realizing I can't save myself. And I didn't know what it meant to dive deep into the word. I didn't know the fullness of the gospel, but I was like, I need to start looking because Lord, I surrender to you.
Yeah.
And that was a time where I was watching random sermons on YouTube and I was trying to find churches to get plugged into. And the Lord was kind to bring Andre into my life too, just as another voice to speak into that. And November of 2020 was when I got saved. And it was just like, it shifted everything, not just on track, but just my life and my perspective and my relationships. And it's been the best decision ever. And I can't recommend him enough.
That's incredible.
So
that is so beautiful.
One of the things I think people notice about you when you compete, like we were just watching some of the highlights, and obviously we were waking up at 3 a.m. watching the Paris Olympics.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed because on one of the events, I'm like, all right, Ginger, we're waking up. It's like 1:30 or 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's a qualifier. It's at Paris. It's like your first run.
Yeah.
And I wake up, I'm like this. I'm watching it all excited. And you like breeze through it.
Yeah.
And I don't think you broke a sweat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they could have told me this was a breeze.
This is what
like,
it was.
I thought this was going to be like a battle.
So great.
Like, I'll wake up on Thursday, but
You're faithful. 3 a.m.
I appreciate it.
I know, he woke up and I was like, oh, wait. Oh, yeah. I remember he said he's going to wake up and watch that.
That's so
And
funny.
I think I was I like early pregnant too? So I was just like
struggling through it.
halfway nauseous, halfway like, what's happening? I don't understand. Like, I need to be going
Just
back
in a
to
daze.
bed. I wanted to watch you. And I was like, I'm so tired. So then we had like a little like gathering of friends and did a watch party for your race. And
For
I
the
was like,
big one.
this is
Yeah.
good for the big one. Yeah. And it was in the middle of the day. It was in normal hours.
I love that.
It was like, what was
Normal
it,
people
noon or
hours.
something? So we went over and watched it, and I was like, "This is great! Wow, this is super cool!"
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, it was a fun experience. But I felt like I was more engaged with that
Yeah,
because I wasn't.
because we're awake.
I was actually
asleep.
awake, and
Yeah.
I was still nauseous, but I was like,
I appreciate it.
you know, it's
Yeah.
okay.
But one of the things is, if people were watching you, like they'll see coming out of your mouth when you finish that race, like, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
So
100%.
you're just talking about Christ being your all in all. You're in a place where right now you've got it all. You're winning the gold medals. You married like the original Adam from the Garden of Eden. Life is good. Life is, you're healthy, whatever. And a lot of times people look at that and say, if only I had this, if only I had stability or success or whatever, I'd be happy. And here you're saying, all that stuff doesn't satisfy. Christ is. And
100%.
here you finish a race. The question is, in the midst of all that, how do you keep Christ as your focal point? Yeah. And then I want to ask a follow-up to that of how present in your mind as you're running is the Lord? Yeah. For you to finish, set a world record. Yeah. The world is watching and your thought is, thank you, Lord.
100%. I think very few people will ever understand the weight of the night before an Olympic final. When you're sitting in the bed and you're understanding that the whole world is going to be watching this one moment. A lot of people are actually praying that you lose. And ultimately, nobody else can help you once you step on that line except the Lord. And I think in those moments, it's not even so much me thinking about winning. It's prayer for the Lord to deliver me through this race, through this moment. Like the amount of anxiety that just sits on you and weighs on you of, you get one chance when that gun goes off. It's not like football where you get a next play. We talk about this all the time. This is one opportunity that comes once every 4 years. And it's never promised to come back. And I think when you cross that line and you see that you won and you ran a certain time, it's like, that's great. But I'm like, thank you, God, for getting me through this moment. Thank you for delivering me through all the anxiety and the tears and injuries and seasons of doubt and wanting to quit halfway through the season. Like all these different things that nobody sees. It's really the journey of your faith, honestly, that you're like celebrating in that moment. And the Lord is always present with me in those moments. I'm on the line and I'm telling myself, like, God's got you. That's the last words that come out of my mouth before the gun goes off. And then thank you, God, is the first words that come out of my mouth once I finish. So it's really just like a beautiful experience of, you almost feel like you're running like for him. Like you just I imagine him looking down on me in this moment from heaven, just like, okay, my child, just go do what I've given you a gift to do, you know? And it's just a beautiful expression of us like running the Christian race, you know, and wanting to do it well. So
talk about that anxiety, because there's a lot of things in your life that people cannot relate to.
100%.
A lot of people don't have a gold medal around their neck from the Olympics. But then there's a lot of stuff every human can relate to, whether it's the pressures of being a mom or work or relationships and anxiety. Everybody has a relationship with anxiety.
For sure.
So bring us into your mind. I mean, you said, I've never thought about it the way you just said it. The night before, the whole world's watching. People are praying against you. What's your relationship with anxiety? What have you learned? How's it changed?
I mean, it's really just a surrender, and ultimately realizing, like, I think all of those weights and pressures ultimately don't matter when your eyes are fixed upon him. Like the cares truly just go away. And I think that's why Andre's been so helpful, is just a reminder when you get inside your own head of all the negative that could go wrong, is just having people in your life who are going to share the truth with you and bring you back to center and pray with you. And we listen to worship music the day of meets and all these different things that just really fix your mind upon Christ, and just realizing that this moment doesn't define you, right? And your identity is not rooted in whether you win or lose this race. And I think that's always the key. And I'll let you speak to just how that has changed, you know, my perspective. And you've been such a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how much I pour into you in that regard. And I think, we both just are anchored once again in the word through our conversation with one another. I mean, we can talk about how you were a new believer when I first met you, but you've been very helpful in my maturation as well. And I think the simplicity of your faith is something that I revere a lot. When you say things like, God's got you, and thank you, God. It doesn't have to be some theological filibustering. It's just the full range of emotions. It's thank you, God. God's got you. Even why God at times. It's just like the Psalms. I'm expressing myself honestly and openly to the Lord. I appreciate that as a seminary student who sometimes can get in the weeds of texts and all types of things. But I think our relationship together with anxiety has been intense. It's been unique. It's been refining. I think for you, just seeing, like you said, I haven't experienced the night before an Olympic final, but I'm doing it almost vicariously with you, and I'm walking shoulder and shoulder with you. Even as you think about the one another's in scripture, who better to be the first one another than my wife? So as I rejoice with you, as I weep with you in loss, it's molding me and it's forming me and your family and other individuals who are collectively, even though it's an individual sport. I will take a second to say, like you mentioned, it's the most unforgiving sport, right? Like she's saying, if I run more than 50 seconds, I did something wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's a blink of an eye in life.
Which, by the way, 2 years ago was unthinkable until you set that standard. So don't be blaming everybody else for you're setting the bar. That's so good, man.
Yeah,
that's so good.
We want to take a break from this episode to tell you about Fabric by Gerber Life.
Yeah, so Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance that makes your family's financial future secure. Life can be so unpredictable. You and I have talked about this a lot, Ginge. I mean,
especially with kids.
Yeah, we're not the biggest planners in the world, but when you have kids, you start to think about wanting to secure their future, make sure they're doing well. So Fabric offers term life insurance you can get term life insurance for $1 a day and get covered up to $1 million. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. It's a really, really incredible way to secure your family's future.
Yeah. Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance that you can get done right from your couch, all online and on your schedule. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required.
Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/gingerjeremy. That's meetfabric.com/gingerjeremy.
Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions.
All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, just to wrap that up about anxieties, I guess I would say the scriptures say, cast your anxieties on me. Jesus is saying, cast your anxieties on me. Yeah. That implies that we will have anxieties. You know, it's not sinful in and of itself to experience life and to feel anxious. But how do you respond to that?
Yeah.
And I think for us together, having somebody else to say, hey, lift your eyes to the hills. Look to the one who your hope is in.
Amen.
Has been awesome.
Yeah.
That's
really
incredible.
cool.
So you guys, I am always amazed at how athletic you actually are. And that sounds so stupid and naive, but like when I was telling Sydney one day, I was like, I felt like even me trying to get into a normal workout routine, I'm like, oh, I took a week off. Now I don't want to get back into a 30-minute workout with a little strength training. Maybe like if I have to run a mile, I feel like I'm going to die. And things like that, which seems so like they're so hard for me. I cannot picture the level of training, but then I'll see these videos of you guys out there. And Andre, you're training, you know, with Sydney. And I'm like, y'all are both in this together. Yeah. So walk us through, what does a day of training look like for you on a typical day? What things are you like eating, getting ready for? Like, what's the recovery like after that?
Oof.
Because I mean, I feel like I'm dying after a 30-minute workout, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta like step into your world. Give us a little.
We're going to write it down so we can start this
and we're going to start training after this baby's born.
Let's go. We'll get the plan drawn up.
Slow steps to ease in is always the key. As of right now, we're in the season training for World Championships. So we're starting to get back into the swing of things. I would say a day of training, waking up in the morning around, as of right now, like 6:30, 6:45, eating a little bit of breakfast, getting to the track around 8 o'clock, warming up for like an hour. And it's a long warm up. It's
warm up for an hour. Okay.
It's a long
It's a full work day. It is. Keep going. Keep going.
It's a long warm up. And then the workout could be anywhere from like an hour to 90 minutes, just depending. And it's not like I'm running that whole time. There's breaks in there for sure. But we'll be on the track for about 90 minutes after that. And then take a small break, maybe eat some lunch or a snack, and then go into the weight room for like another 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then from there, I'll go get either a massage or see a chiropractor, sometimes dry needling, whatever it is. And then finish the day with like the sauna or the cold plunge. So nice little ice bath.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And food, I mean, high protein, healthy carbs, vegetables, lots of water. We do like the occasional sweets, but like healthy sweets. We're trying to. Any day can really be a cheat day, to be honest. It's just a matter of how much are we cheating. Yeah. No, I don't like to. Sometimes I go extreme and I'm like, I'm not going to eat anything bad. And he's like, don't do that because then you're going to just start binging one day. So we just do little doses.
I like it.
She's
What
a
is
baker,
your
though.
cheat? What is your cheat? What is your favorite thing?
She's a baker.
I do like to bake.
So she's got all types of cookies, cakes,
it's bad.
Impressive.
pies, stuff at the house all the
Sourdough,
time.
have you gotten to the sourdough train?
We have to talk about the starter situation because it kind of scares me.
Yeah.
The starter is like intimidating, but I want to figure it out.
And with your travels though too, because y'all are not just at home all the time.
For sure.
So that's the other thing. I've heard it's like taking care of a child. Or
the starter,
right?
Yeah, you got to feed it every day.
Crazy.
It's like,
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know, Jeremy.
the sourdough starter to make
it's a whole thing.
It's alive.
It's a whole thing.
It's alive.
I'm telling you, it's intense.
When
Is
they
it like
make
a
bread.
machine?
Yes. No, it's not.
Oh, what is it's?
Don't even
I'll Google
actually
later.
know
Is
how
there
to
like an
explain
ingredient
it.
list?
I'll Google it
later.
It's what helps the dough to rise.
Okay.
But like it's like the yeast is like alive, so you have to keep it alive and keep feeding it so that
that's
it
what
will
you said. It's like
continue.
You have to feed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Otherwise,
not a
Feed your
professional.
food. Okay.
So-
Feed your food. There you go.
It's like a cow.
I don't know.
Feed
Got
your
it.
food.
I don't know.
Feed your food.
That's
All
why I
that.
haven't started because I don't know.
So how many days a week are you training?
Yeah. I would say consistently 4, sometimes 5. Just depends.
Okay.
Yeah. Wednesdays and Sundays are
that's-
normally off.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you're standing on that podium, and do you feel this like national pride like surging through?
100%.
And then do you think back on all the training, all the blood, sweat, and tears?
This time I didn't. After the 400 hurdles, no, I was actually thinking about the next race. I was like, okay, we still have the relay.
Wow.
On
That's
the
what I was
podium.
thinking about. Yeah.
Wow.
Sydney, take it in for a minute.
She's
I was
focused.
like, okay,
She's focused.
I was like, this is amazing, but we got to do it again.
Wow.
But that after the relay, for sure, you look back and you reflect on like the whole year. And there was a moment for us this year. I think it was April 23rd. My coach can quote it to the day that really just turned things around. I remember texting him and I was like, ever since Oregon 2022, and I ran the 50.6 for the first time, I was like, I've been afraid of feeling that kind of pain again. And I felt like I'd almost been like cheating myself ever since because I was so scared of taking myself mentally back to that place. And I think this year I just had to realize like the Lord has given you a gift and it's not always going to be easy to do the things that he's placed in front of you. And sometimes it's going to take discomfort. And I think I had to mentally push past some of that fear, you know? So that's what I was reflecting on after the Olympics for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got the crown on your head and you're going, job's not done.
Job's not
finished.
done.
Mama mentality.
Yeah,
man.
And there's a lot to learn there about what it takes to be a champion, though.
100%.
Very much.
You know, I've just been preaching through the New Testament use of athletics for the Christian life.
Yeah.
And that's the Apostle Paul. Hey, I forget what lies behind. Press forward to what lies ahead.
Yeah.
Like job's not done.
Weights.
Yeah.
We're still running.
It's true.
And the Apostle Paul never sat back and was like, I got this in the bag. Like, I'm righteous.
Yep.
I've had conversations with Christ. Like, we're good. He was always pressing forward.
Yeah. There's no complacency.
Yeah, there's a baked in humility to that. Like, there you are, you know, greatest in the world. You're receiving the prize. The night before you were consumed with the pressure. Now everyone is clapping with the gold medal, and you're thinking Thursday or next Friday or whatever.
Yeah.
Next race.
100%.
There's a lot the Christian can learn from that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, watching you win in Paris was fun.
Watching him.
Bro, anxiety, dude. You're sitting there in the stands like, I've seen that face from Andre before. How was that experience for you, bro?
It's indescribable because I'm so used to being on the field to where like I can do something about the outcome of the team. But here it's just like, I've seen her work. I've put in some of the sweat with her. We've prayed. We've read scriptures. We've listened to worship songs all throughout the day. We've cast our anxieties on Christ. And now it's like the results in the hand of the Lord. So I'm just sitting there as a spectator like everybody else. And it's funny because sometimes NBC will try to like mic up family members and they'll mic me up and they'll look at me before and they'll be like, why are you nervous? She always wins. And I'm just like, nothing's guaranteed, man.
Wow. 100%.
And I'm always a little bit just nervous. I think she's the best hurdler in the world, not just by time, but by efficiency over each hurdle too. But the hurdles are still an obstacle. Yeah. So whenever she runs a race where there's no hurdles, I'm a little more calm. But with the hurdles, I'm just like,
he gets nervous with the hurdles every time.
X factors, barriers. But I don't know. I handle it better, I guess, now than when we first got together.
First of all, where'd the crown come from?
Oh, great question. His sister actually came up with the idea of the crown. This was like a year before the Olympics. She was like, I can't remember what we were talking about. She was like, if you win, I'm going to have this crown for you and I'm going to put it on your head after you win. And I was like, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah. I totally forgot about it. And then after the race, cause like normally right in front is where family is, but like I didn't know you guys were off to the side. So I just went straight ahead and she's there with the crown and I'm like, oh my gosh, she really brought it. And she put it on. I was like, first of all, I was like, this is an expensive looking crown. Like you spent some money on this thing. This is nice. But it just was like, it was just such a fun moment. Obviously at first I think I was a little uncomfortable. I was like, should I really wear it? But I also was like, it's a fun moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. To be able to look back and just be like, this is just a great memory to be able to have. And even just some of the photos, I think New Balance used them in some of their like ads and stuff. And just, it was a beautiful night. Even that victory lap of just getting to see family and friends and trainers and people along the way. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment for sure.
Yeah, the crown was a great touch. It was a culmination of everything.
Yeah. Well, it's an iconic photo.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is incredible.
Yeah.
Talk about how you guys support each other. And obviously Christ is like the heartbeat of your life. Yeah. But professional sports, especially when you're at the top, is all about self. And you're surrounded by the glorification of self.
100%.
And you're constantly being pandered to as well. Wherever you go, red carpet, roll down, treated like. How do you guys support each other? How do you approach being like a faithful believer in elite world athletics?
Want to take that?
It's a good question, Jeremy. I think The first thing that comes to my mind, I don't know if it was like Marcus Aurelius or somebody, they had like a slave who would whisper in his ear and he's like, "You're just a man. You're just a man." So when you feel larger than life, you need somebody
100%.
who also sees your flaws to remind you, not to berate you, not to give punitive punishment or correction, but just to remind you of your humanity, that we are great in some aspects and we fail in others. And I think we both do a healthy job of that, and simultaneously, honestly, outweighing that 10 times is just encouraging each other, helping one another be reminded that our help comes from the Lord, that I see your growth, that I see your sanctification taking off, that I see your good works, that I see the desire in your heart, even if the desire doesn't land how you wanted it to. I see your intention, even when the world doesn't see your intention. And again, it's about your heart's intention, how you want to serve people. So Sydney can go win that race and break another world record, but if her heart wasn't set on glorifying God, that's what the Lord sees. And people can also see that authentically or inauthentically. If she's putting on a show, there's other people who put on shows and do their own thing. And I think she's just very authentic. And it honestly rubs some people the wrong way. Her glorifying God and being a humble leader. I mean, there's people who will say, "Oh, you're ruining the sport because you aren't a showman or a showwoman." And she's just like, "That's not who I am. Like, I'm a humble servant of the Lord, and I'm very talented, and I'm going to be diligent at what I do."
It's also not the point of the sport.
It's not the point of the sport. It's a very pure sport. So let's just give the pure time.
So but I also think, sorry, to add to that, there's actually just like a natural, I think, inclinate, like there's been a increase, I think, in the past few years, just of like, especially in track and field, just like people who want to know more about the Lord or who love the Lord, who I feel like are becoming more vocal. So I literally ran a race, I think back in 2023, and I just raced this girl. And then we sit down and we're talking about the Lord, like right after the race and what he's doing in her life and her children's lives. And it's just like, there's a beauty to being outspoken. You never know what the person next to you might be thinking. Do you know what I mean? And I even think there's just been an increase of other people within track and field who love the Lord. I mean, a thing, for example, too, you know, we train together every day now, and it's just been great to see just our conversations, though we are in a spot where there are a lot of eyes on us, we get to encourage one another moving forward in that humility of wanting to glorify the Lord.
That is awesome. Yeah. And with that, I mean, Andre, how did you decide you wanted to do ministry stuff? Like pursue seminary? Because you said you had that foundation. Here, you guys are coming together. You're very busy, traveling, training, and then throw seminary into the mix. How did you even have like that? How was that decision made in the midst of so much that you guys are juggling?
Yeah, I think it wasn't like an aspiration of mine initially. I think it was a natural outgrowth of just how my life was, the path of my life. So when I was in college, suffered an injury. I had a relationship with my team chaplain, but in the midst of recovering from that injury, I fractured a vertebrae in my back. So I was in the hospital for a few nights, and our team chaplain would come every day. And then once I got discharged from the hospital, it was my mom who had driven up, and the team chaplain would just come to my apartment, and we'd read scriptures and we'd pray and we'd have conversations about life. And we had a relationship before that, but through that trial, our relationship grew tremendously. And from that, he asked me to take over our team's Bible study. And typically it would be like 4 guys who would come periodically. But the next year after I took it over, I started having some success in that senior season. And for better or for worse, the right reasons or the wrong reasons, more guys started coming to the Bible study. So it was like 15 guys now that would frequently come. Our team would pray before and after games in the locker room, then on the 50-yard line, almost the full team. Some of these games, we're praying win or lose on the 50-yard line afterward. Just a public show of faith that in victory or defeat, we're giving God the glory. In injury or in health, we're giving God the glory. And I think that was an awesome show of unity. And God allowed my success on the field to give me a microphone or a platform in our locker room to bear witness to what he's done in my life and what he can do for all people. And that he is the one who can save us from ourselves truly, not from just this world or the sinfulness in the world, but recognizing like, I'm a sinner. I need a savior. And I think I had an opportunity to do that. Once I got to the league, it was interesting because I was an undrafted guy. I always tell Sydney it's awesome how she's at the pinnacle. She's a preeminent figure in her sport. I wasn't. In the NFL, I was scrounging day in and day out just to stay on the team. I was a practice squad guy a lot of times, but it was interesting to see how working heartily for the Lord, my work ethic allowed guys who were making 20, 30, $40 million to say like, there's something interesting about this guy. And I wasn't mincing my words in the locker room about what I believed or how I was leading my life or relationships, how I was navigating those with women. And I think for them, a lot of times it was like, there's something different about him. And maybe that was just saltiness in the locker room, if you will, being salt and light there. And I think me getting people's ear made me think to myself, God's using me as a mouthpiece. So I need to be trained if I'm going to continue doing this. And I really feel like the Master's Seminary where I'm at right now, I'm getting a world-class education. I'm getting to learn from a lot of faithful men of God who aren't just, again, mouthpieces, but they actually have behaviors that match their beliefs. And they're really exemplary in that regard. So I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful for where the Lord's called me to. And I never thought I'd be here, but that's how God works.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love hearing that too, because I think it's amazing just to hear how you have such a, passion, desire for football. And that's where, you start. But then once you get into it, like you said, you don't have to be in the center, the star of this team. And God allowed that for a time period.
Yeah.
And then shifts that to ministry and that desire. It's the same direction that happened with Jared. Like you get to that pro spot and the Lord uses that because then you're around other unbelievers and they are looking at your life. And that's 100%. Part of it. Like on the field, off the field, what are you doing behind the scenes? Yeah. They're always watching. And so it's such a beautiful gift to be in that place because very few get the ability to be there. And the Lord places so many believers in these spaces to be alive.
For us, we've talked a lot about stewardship. And it's interesting to see the four of us here and everybody listening, God has taken them on a path and it's ours to steward. And it's cool to see how you guys are stewarding in God's providence in two different ways.
Yeah.
Like your gifts and your abilities and it's all for the same purpose though.
100%.
Which is the beauty of the church. Like
100%.
You see all these different people and they're all glory of Christ. You're doing it on a track. You're doing it in ministry. And it's that's how God works.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Okay, I've got a question. After the Olympics, I was talking to the track and field coach, Daniel Rush at the Masters University. Probably the youngest track and field coach in the country. Not a big deal. They keep winning the GSAC.
Really?
Let's go.
It's not a big deal. He's
How young are you talking?
He's a baller.
Okay.
He's 18.
No, he's not.
Oh, I was going to say, wait, hold on.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, 23.
He's a child worker. My goodness.
They just won the GSAC again. They're sweeping everything. Shout out TMU, track and field, cross country.
Shout out.
But I asked him, I said, Daniel, like I get Sydney's great.
Yeah.
Why is she great? I guess she's fast. Is it just like, oh, she's just fast? And what he was explaining to me is you've redefined the event. Maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, breaking 52 seconds was unthinkable. They thought maybe in a decade.
Yeah.
You come along. Delila had the world record at the time. I want to ask you something about that too in a minute, but you start breaking it and then it's all of a sudden in 13 months, you break it 4 more times or 6 more times.
I think it was 4 times in 13 months. Yeah.
And so it's like boom, boom, boom. And people are going, how is she like knocking this thing down?
Yeah.
And he was explaining it has to do with your stride patterns. It has to do with how you calculated the race. So it's not purely the genetics and the training, but it's calculated. Can
100%.
you take us into that world for a second? Walk us through because the way you look at someone running down a track is different than most people.
Yeah. It's a great question. So 400 hurdles, for those who don't know track and field, there's 10 hurdles in the race. It's 1 lap around. And for the longest time, everybody believed like the perfect race was 15 strides. So what that means is you would be staying on the same lead leg all the way around, right? So I'm normally a right leg lead. That's the one that goes over the hurdle first. And when people get fatigued, they normally take 16 steps. So they'll alternate to their left leg. So normally people would be between 15 and 16 steps. And for a long time, the world record was 52.34 for a long time until Delilah broke it in 2019. And I was with a different coach at the time, and I was like, wow, she just broke the world record I was in the race, like right in front of me. She literally broke the world record. And I was like,
she's about this far in front of you.
Yeah.
She was a little bit further than that. There was a different one that year, earlier that year, that she broke it. And I was like, oh my gosh, she just broke the world record. I never thought I'd see that. And then, 2 months later, I'm in the same race again, and I'm right behind her, and she broke it again and ran 52.16. And I was like, wow, like people are running this faster. Like this is really possible. And COVID shut the world down. I ended up switching coaches. I'm now with Bobby Kersey, and Bobby is just a genius. Bobby's been in the sport for 40 something years. He's been to 12 Olympics. He's got at least one gold medal in all of those Olympics. And he taught me the race, I think very thoroughly and very well. But he also taught me that God made me the way I am for a reason, right? I'm tall naturally. I have a long stride. And we were doing practices, but for some reason, my body just wanted to go 14. And that's not normally how you run the race. And he was like, why don't we just let your body do what it wants to do? And
you know someone a text message?
Yeah, he literally had a text that just repeatedly said, let your body do what it wants to do. Let your body do what it wants, like 50 times, right before the Olympic trials. And so we started just doing 14s. And I would go, I think, through like half the race on 14s, and then I would go back to 15s. And that's when we broke it for the first time. We ran 51.90, going 14s down the backstretch. And I was like, what just happened?
Wow.
You know, just letting my body do what it genuinely wanted to do. And so now the sport has changed so much. There's so many women doing 14s for as long as they can. And then they go back to 15s, right? So it started out going 14, maybe through hurdle 5. Now we're going 14 through hurdle 7. And it's taken us all the way to 50.3, you know? And so it's just a crazy drop over the past few years, but it's just so cool to see how all these little tweaks and changes and lead legs and stride patterns, all these different, it's just literally science that's just like changing how the sport is being done. Yeah. People are just finding different ways to get faster. And that's what's beautiful to me is like, there's so much more that can be done, right? Until somebody runs 0.01, there's always something that can be better.
But the crazy thing is a lot of people probably don't consider whether there's hurdles or no hurdles, like how precise and like how much consideration goes into how you run the race. People are like, you're just fast. But track and field, there's real team cohesion, coaching.
Well, I'll never forget. You came back from the Olympic qualifiers right before Paris, and I'll go up to Sydney at church. Andre at church. I'm like, hey, congrats to Sydney. Like, she just broke the world record again. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, we were actually disappointed with that race. Her technique wasn't great. And I said, hey, brother, you might want to rethink what you think good technique is, because she just broke the world record again. Say that. Like maybe that's the good technique, or what you think is good technique. But of course, you broke it again.
Funny.
That's fair.
I want to spend just a few minutes asking you, because one of the most fascinating things, especially if people read your book, For Beyond Gold.
Yes.
They'll see when you were in this competition with Delilah. Muhammad, who was the world record holder. Yeah. You were the up and comer.
Yeah.
And you guys were battling it out. You ended up overtaking her time. But the race that we talked about just a second ago, it's a fascinating one to watch. In 2019, is it?
Yeah.
And she sets the world record. You're right behind her. You run the second fastest time ever.
Yeah.
In the 400 meter hurdles.
Yeah.
And afterwards, you're devastated.
Heartbroken.
Weeping in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, most people would go, hey, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But it wasn't good enough for you.
It wasn't. Because I knew there was more. And I think even watching that race back, I remember at the time I wasn't saved. I didn't know the Lord, but I was calling on God before that race. Like, I literally remember being like, Lord, I know we don't have a relationship like that, but like, this is serious. And but I was like, I am actually really terrified about this race and I really want to win. And I just remember in that race, knowing that I wasn't ready for that moment. And so watching in slow motion, me get so close, but also be so far, and her cross the line and it say world record again. I just was like, heartbroken, because I knew in my own strength, both physically on the track and where I was at mentally and spiritually. I was like, you're not even prepared for this moment. And I think that's what was heartbreaking at the time, was just like, I wanted it so bad to feel validated. And I think the book kind of talks about that a bit, but I'm grateful for that loss in so many ways, because I think it woke me up just to be like, I think there's some things missing. I think there's some things we need to get in order here. But she's an amazing competitor to this day. She pushed me to be my best since I was 16 years old. And I'm grateful because she showed me it was possible. And yeah, we've taken the event so far.
An amazing thing, just like insider information, something you shared with me. It's interesting. In 2019, you felt like, I'm not a Christian, but I feel compelled to call out to God. But in 2022, it's so interesting. You told me the race that you ran at Worlds. That's one race where you've actually told me, Andre, like as soon as she came off the track, before I could kiss her or anything, she was like, I didn't even run that race. I felt God carry me around the track, like with full conviction in her eyes. She was literally just like, I don't know what just happened. I broke the world record on it. I didn't even run that race. Like God did that for me. She could literally feel that. And I was just like, dang, I wish I could feel that. I wish I could say that about a game. I feel like that was awesome.
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
Guys, you are such a beautiful example of a Christ-centered marriage. You're exemplary to young girls and guys on the track, pursuing a life of ministry. I mean, we're so grateful for your life in so many ways.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I feel like we could just talk to you guys forever.
Well,
There's so many more questions I'm thinking of now. And sadly, we're running out of time, but we have to close out with where are you headed now? Like, what is the next thing you're working on? And what do the next couple of years look like for you guys?
It's a great question. Currently for me on the track, it's a world championship year. So world championships are in September in Tokyo, actually. So going back there, which will be really fun. I mean, we're at a point where just growing in marriage, growing in just sanctification, and you're continuing in seminary. We're just growing and seeing where the Lord takes us.
Yeah, I got about 2 more years in seminary. And then wherever the Lord leads me and Sydney. I mean, our desire, we're both from the East Coast. We'd love to plant a church back near our families on the East Coast. But there are some beautiful redeeming qualities about California. So we'll see. We're keeping our hands open, but definitely looking to finish strong in seminary and to see Sydney continue to excel in track and field.
For the track nerds, are you going to run the 400 meter hurdle in 28 in Los Angeles?
It's a good question. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. Every day's a mystery. I mean, I would love to try some different events like the 4 and the 2. And I don't know, maybe if we get crazy, even the 1. So I just love to kind of show the range and the versatility. So we'll have to see where it takes us. So
Andre, Sydney, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, guys. It's been so fun.
So much fun.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys for listening. Like, subscribe, do all this stuff, leave a review, and we'll see you next week.